Now, there have been several new developments in Maui's recovery recently, including more federal funding for housing, the One Ohana Fund launch, and the installation of wildfire sensors. And joining us this morning to discuss all of it and more, Governor Josh Green. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I know the last time you were here, you were actually about to head to D.C. to speak with our nation's top leaders to try and get more help for our wildfire victims and survivors. Give us an update on that. I know we are getting some additional funding.
Yeah, incredibly productive trip. I met with the president, the vice president, and the HUD team. That's Housing, Urban Development, Transportation. So right off the bat, they were able to decrease the number of families that we were responsible for from 820 to 555. These were non-FEMA eligible families. That's about $250,000 a day. Meanwhile, we're also pushing ahead on housing projects, which they will be supportive of. We're going to build 450 houses right now over in La'i'i'i, and then the feds decided they could do 168 houses right there. So again, moving people out of hotels to long-term rentals and then long-term rentals to this transitional housing is the process until we get to the end game, which is permanent housing. So these are just some of the things. Also, the feds passed an agreement, they ratified an agreement that will now include COFA migrants into kind of a funded category for the federal government, which means going forward, those individuals from Micronesia who have a lot of other benefits because of long-standing agreements will now going forward be able to get help too when there's a disaster. So every day it's meetings with top-level officials. Even today I'm meeting with them to again further decrease our responsibility and increase the federal component. And that's what we need, because this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar recovery as we care for our people.
And I know, of course, the last time we were talking, we still have people who are in hotels. There's still a need for houses for them. So where are we looking at now? I think the last update was we were still in need of a few hundred homes for survivors to get them out of hotels.
Right. So at the peak, we had 7,800 to 7,900 individuals in hotels. We're now under half of that. So we're now under 4,000 individuals as we move people to long-term rentals. I made an appeal again, and it's been working to get people in West Maui who own short-term rentals to convert those. I made an appeal nationally on some of the national networks too, and we've been getting a couple hundred additional spaces for a period of time. We also acquired another building called the Hagai. It's got 175 units, which we'll be able to move individuals into. But it's a process. Every single additional unit that we can get will help us. If people have a short-term rental that they will convert, we'd appreciate it. They will get a tax break from the county, and they will get a very substantial amount of money to help us rent month to month and then get people to this permanent housing position. I need people to do that. The big issue has been that we have a lot of short-term rentals on Maui, 31,000 short-term rentals, and we simply don't have enough housing for our people. So I'm trying to put incentives in now, but if we don't succeed with incentives, then comes the other approach, which is higher taxes and a movement away from those short-term rentals, because that is central to our housing shortage.
And I know we're talking about the possibility of building more homes, which those federal dollars are going to be going to, but how long does that take? Because as you mentioned, trying to get people into homes is kind of the short term, but building more is going to be more of the longer term.
Yeah, so it's going to be 4 to 6 month accelerated build at La'i'i'i, and the federal incentive is going to be pushing them to build a lot more temporary housing. Building long-term housing with HUD support is, a multi-year process. In fact, today the nation will hear that the HUD secretary is retiring and their deputy's becoming the HUD secretary. So we send our very best wishes to Marcia Fudge, who has had an extraordinary run and has been great to us. But Adrian, her deputy, is close to me, and I'm very well hooked in to what HUD will do. So that will be hundreds of millions of dollars to help with infrastructure and so on. We have to build thousands of houses. So we have a plan right now to build 1,000 houses from the state side, transitional houses. We're expanding the long-term housing to about 5,000 housing units on Maui, which takes water, so that's complicated. And we're encouraging FEMA and the federal guys to also build 1,000 transitional houses. That will get us through the crisis, but long-term, we have to look at bigger housing policy questions, and that's what my team will do.
Oh, I know the One Ohana Fund has been a couple of weeks since that has launched. How many people have we seen apply for that, and what's been the reaction to it, and what are you hearing from victims?
Sure, it's been very positive. 13 families immediately signed up. I will go to Maui in the latter part of March and make a direct appeal if people would like it, if they'd like to avail themselves of that plan. A family would get $1.5 million if they lost a loved one. That might be for them, might not. Zero pressure, just whatever's best for them. I'm also going to be going to Japan next week to get more housing for us. Uniglow and those folks own property and support some of the land on Maui, and I'm going to ask them to give us houses too. So there's just a constant ebb and flow of work. We also brought sensors in now, right. Fire sensors. We're going to put fire sensors up and down the coast of Maui, and also in other places that are higher risk, like west Oahu, Big Island, in Waikoloa, to protect us against fires. So there's just so many things that are all happening kind of at once. But I'm grateful to everyone for their hard work. I mean, this is the largest challenge we've ever had, probably.
Mm-hmm. And of course, wildfire recovery is going to be a thing we continue to track for months and years as we continue through. I know another thing you've been really focused on are the kauhale.
Yes.
We've had 2 others open recently, as well as the center in Iwilei, which you were telling me before this interview, they're kind of all working together. Yeah,
we're creating a homeless health system just so people understand what I'm up to. And so there's lots of individuals who are homeless. It was 6,223 as of last year. When they're on the streets, they suffer, they lose 3 decades of life, and they cost about $80,000 per person per year if they're in and out of the hospital. So we just opened this Iwilei Health Center for people to come and get mental health services. There's also 9 bedrooms upstairs in case they need to come off the streets. And we added these 2 kauhale. Another one's going to be happening soon in Iwilei in partnership with the mayor. Mayor Blanchiardi's team has been awesome. And so all of these things help us because the core team can bring individuals with mental illness or addiction to the Iwilei Center. The Iwilei Center can either take someone to live permanently at a kauhale or upstairs if they need a little bit more health support. And instead of going to the ER and costing a ton of money, they can get housing and support. And we will build up to 12 kauhale by the end of this year. Then we'll expand our horizons and do a lot more in 2025. So you'll see a solution to most of our homeless crisis over these 18 months to 2 years. It has to be methodical. There's a lot of support there, but it is so economical compared to what we've been doing historically that I think pretty much everyone's on board.
How much money are we looking to save, in a sense, long term with the kauhale? As you mentioned, we're looking at thousands of dollars that usually go towards supporting those experiencing homelessness when they go to the ER and in other capacities. So how does this kind of offset that? What
it does is if people get into housing and don't end up in the healthcare system with acute illness, my projections earlier were that we would save as much as $300 million a year of Medicaid dollars. And after many years of encouraging the federal government to take up a plan, which I described as housing as healthcare, they finally did it. So now 8 states, including Hawaii at the lead, will be allowed to use a small amount of Medicaid dollars to actually pay for housing. So instead of paying $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to see people in and out of the hospital, we'll use a tiny amount of money. It's about $16,000 to build a kauhale, a unit, an actual house, and then people's costs drop over 70%. So this is a model that I think will actually catch on nationally, but we're testing it out here in Hawaii, and it's been working. The kauhale opened over in Windward, the kauhale opened at Middle Street, the kauhale will open at Iwilei, and it's just a better approach. I don't know what to say. I mean, letting people drift around on the street and acts of violence occurring, trauma, that's just no way to treat people and no way to live in society. So I'm very proud of this approach, and I hope that my other governors across the country will pick it up because we've got about 575,000 homeless individuals in our nation.
Mm-hmm. Well, Governor, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, these are all projects we're going to continue to keep updated with and see how they're all progressing and helping the state.
Thank you.